So, welcome to our second night of our very first signature series, and specifically on menopause. And if you were on Tuesday night, you were enlightened, empowered, and what I will tell you about you is you were engaged. Like I've said, you hung on every word. There were between 87 and 93 people when I looked, and just like no one was moving a muscle. They were just writing and just in the chat. So that is what changes everything, y'all. We can deliver whatever we would like to you. But if you are not looking to feel better or to take control of your own health, we're just having a nice little chat in the evening with you. So we're so excited. And tonight we're going to move into you had some eye openings the other night, right? And tonight you're going to hear some very in-depth things from both Lois and Tawny that will start to help with those solutions, help to start putting that puzzle together of some things that may really help you, or at least give you a better conversation with your current doctor or as you're looking for a new one. So I am going to go ahead and zip it. I am very excited to hear from Lois myself. I once again will be grabbing my pen and I will be taking notes as well because I learn from both of these every time we chat. So thank you, Lois, and we're excited. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, welcome. I am very, very anxious to bring you some solutions for facing the different aspects of menopause. I thought Tuesday night was a fantastic turnout. I loved seeing all your comments. We went back through all the comments, and what I see is that you're ready. You're ready for some changes, and you're ready to have knowledge, because knowledge is definitely power in this area. And so I want to take you a little deeper before we get into like the pillars of health and the practical things that you can do. But I want to take you a little bit deeper after reading some comments, just to make sure you understand why the things that we're going to share with you tonight are so vitally important as you navigate successfully, this time in your life. I believe I said last week, this is the one thing that all women have in common. We will all go through menopause. If we live long enough, we will all go through menopause. And I'm just over the moon excited. On Tuesday, I was so giddy I couldn't even go to sleep because I'm so happy that this many people are interested in finding out what they can do. This is no longer a hush hush topic, and we are empowered for change. So, the first thing that I want to share with you, there are just some details we didn't cover last week that I realized are important. And I want to start with talking about the way that a woman's body is made. For example, we are all born with all of the eggs that we're ever going to have. So on the day that we're born, we have between 1 to 2 million eggs at birth. And men, however, they reproduce their genetic material fresh every day. So that's a big, big difference. And our organs, particularly our ovaries, they age twice as fast as any other organ in our body. So by the time we hit our 30s, we're down to about 10% of our egg supply. And when we hit our 40s, we're down to about 3% of our egg supply on average. And whenever we're postmenopausal, that basically just means that your body is out of eggs, and that's a different stage of life that we're all going to hit again if we live long enough. So I want to introduce you to a term that you may not have ever heard before. It's kind of a weird word. I'm not even sure if I'm saying it exactly right, but the word is estrobolome. So you've probably heard of your microbiome. This is estrobolome. And what an estrobolome is it's like your microbiome, but it's specific to the way that your body deals with your sex hormones. So it's a bacteria and fungi in the gut that influence how estrogen circulates throughout your system. We have trillions of organisms, if you will, in your gut microbiome. And they have specific functions. And one of those functions for what we call the estrobolome, one of those functions is estrogen metabolism. And if you don't have a particular type of bacteria or fungi that make up the estrobolome, you will not be able to break down estrogen. And if it isn't broken down and metabolized, then it can't be used to do its job. Everything has to be broken down and metabolized in order to do its job. And so if it can't do its job, then we're going to have problems with cognitive function, mood regulation, skin and hair health, protection from things like heart disease. If estrogen isn't metabolized, it's stored in the body, and that's when estrogen can work against you. But here's the really good thing about your estrobolome. According to the experts, we have a lot of control over that makeup. And so, in turn, as we control the estrobolome in our body and we help it to stay healthy, then that makes our menopause symptoms much, much easier to manage. So, I wanted to start with talking about that, the importance of your gut health and the relationship between your gut health and your hormones. So, another thing I want to say about this estrobolome is that one of the problems that we can have, especially when we get to postmenopausal age, is that we can have something called estrogen dominance. And so when that happens, we have to have lifestyle changes, such as eating a healthy diet, increasing our fiber intake, getting exercise. Those are things that we need. And I'm going to spend most of my time tonight talking to you about lifestyle changes and things that you can do to manage your estrobolome so that you can have the very best experience possible with your menopausal symptoms. Okay, so when we look at gut health, we find that it is a significant contributor to the balance, that the hormone balance that we have in the gut. If you have poor gut health, which many of us do, then it affects the body's ability to eliminate estrogen out of your body. So your estrogen is actually metabolized in your liver. You may already know that. And then your estrogen, after it's metabolized, is eliminated, the excess estrogen, out of your body through bowel movements. So something as simple as making sure that you're not constipated can be huge for your symptoms. Because if you're constipated and you have a backup of estrogen in your body, that's no good. So what we want to do is make sure that this estrobolome is in balance, and then your estrogen can be where it needs to be. So when you have a worsening estrogen dominance in your body, it can lead to inflammation. And we will, if you don't hear anything else I say, I need you to hear me say that inflammation in your body is the number one goal for you to be a healthy woman. As we age, this is so vitally important to women's health. It's important to everyone's health, men and women alike, but it's so vitally important to women's health because do you know what your most powerful anti-inflammatory friend is? It's estradiol. It's one of these hormones that we're talking about that decreases with age. And we don't want to have the effects of estrogen dominance in our body because we can have this chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation happens when estrogen decreases, and we have also a decreased production of testosterone. And once we get that imbalance, y'all, we have all these symptoms we're talking about: digestive disorders, allergies, immune. Did you know autoimmune diseases are top for women in post-menopause? Arthritis, asthma. Have you ever met a lady that has late onset asthma? But they're probably in menopause. So asthma, eczema, even acne in older women can happen. We all know about the headaches and the abdominal fat. We know about depression and sinus disorders, and it can just go on and on. And all of this is associated with chronic inflammation. And so we're really going to hone in on the things that we can do to reduce chronic inflammation in our bodies. Inflammation causes the production of cortisol. And cortisol is the thing that is associated with what people call a muffin top, or this actual weight that we carry right beneath our belly button. That comes from cortisol. And we're really going to work on things that we can do to reduce and to improve our estrobolome and our gut health in general so that we can be healthy. So, what I want to do is, I want to share with you some practical things you can do, some pillars of good health. And what I want you to hear me say is that this is like a toolbox, and you're going to have all these tools that we're going to talk to you about tonight, but they don't work unless you pull the tools out of the toolbox. And because I love knowledge and I love learning, I understand for me, it is a temptation to want to learn and learn and learn, but not necessarily implement the things that I'm learning. So I want to beg you to learn about the things you have in your toolbox, what's available to you, take them out of the toolbox and use them, because when you do, you are going to not only be able to reduce your symptoms and feel better, but the important part of this is you're also going to reduce the risk of serious health implications that occur as we lose estrogen. Again, estrogen is your most powerful anti-inflammatory, and inflammation is the culprit for diabetes, Alzheimer, dementia, some cancers, y'all, stroke. I mean, inflammation in your body is the number one enemy, and we have to fight against it. Now, before I get into some of these practical things, I do want to just mention some technical things. I really don't have a great place to put them, so I'm going to put them right here, and then I'm going to go into talking about the practical things you can do. But some of the comments that I received from 2 nights ago, I just want to hit on a little bit. Why is osteoporosis so serious? Well, because with osteoporosis, it basically means that you're losing the strength in your bones. And when you lose the strength in your bones and your bones become more fragile, they can break. And when you have a bone break, particularly in certain areas of your body, such as, for example, like your hip, you can become sedentary. And whenever you become inactive as you get older, it is very, very serious. And I will give you a statistic that I found about a year ago. If a person in their from age 75 and up, they have a higher chance of dying from a hip fracture than from colon cancer. And the reason for this is that this is the ultimate, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you become inactive, and that happens a lot of times when we break a bone, if you become inactive, your body starts to decline. And when you become inactive, it's very hard to rebound. So I want you to hear me say osteoporosis can be a serious thing. So when we talk to you tonight about things like strength training, like walking with a weighted vest, when we talk to you about, eating 5 prunes a day to help build bone strength and osteoblast, when we talk to you about those things, it's really serious, because a broken bone is no joke as we get older and become more inactive and more sedentary. Another thing I want y'all to all know about is vaginal estrogen. Anyone can have, there's no risk to any woman with vaginal estrogen. This is a really important thing that you can all look into, talk with your doctor about. In older people, again, particularly age 75 and up, because the people that are on here right now, yes, 5 prunes a day. That's what I said. But everyone that's on here right now, even if you're an older woman, you still have to deal with the implications of not having estrogen in your body, not having a lot of estrogen in your body. If you're an older woman, and when I say older in this case, 60 and up, did you know that we as women can be very susceptible to like UTIs and even sepsis? If we get UTI infections, it can also cause in older people for them to have dementia-like symptoms. This is very, very serious. So I just wanted to throw these things in here it at this place so that I didn't forget some of the questions you asked and some of these specific answers. We're not going to be able to answer every question tonight. It's going to be more general information, but I want you to know some of these things. Lactobacillus, which is one of the strains of probiotic that is in the Zingular probiotic, can help you with vaginal health and even less urgency so that you don't feel like you're having to go to the bathroom to pee all the time. So I wanted to just throw those in now. That's kind of like a commercial. And now I'm going to get back to talking about the different things that we can do, the pillars of health. So what can you do to help that estrobolome or your gut microbiome? The first thing, y'all, I got to start right here talking about general nutrition. You're not going to want to hear it, but you've got to ditch the sugar, especially artificial sweeteners. And I know that there are millions of women that say, well, I don't drink sugar, but I drink diet drinks because, you don't gain weight from the artificial sweeteners. Not true that artificial sweeteners are not bad for you. They tend to be the biggest contributor to having an imbalance in your gut microbiome. So when that happens, they overwhelm the good bacteria and they cause digestive issues. But probiotics and prebiotics feed the good bacteria. Probiotics replenish and help your good bacteria to win the fight in your gut. And the addition of those is so very helpful. You can also do things such as eat fermented food like sauerkraut and yogurt and kefir that are already naturally rich in prebiotics to help the gut bacteria. You want to look at your medications, for example, because a lot of medications are really hard on the gut microbiome. And so if you're on medications that you don't need, then it's very important for you to talk over your medication list with your doctors. Some people end up on a bunch of medications and they're not even really sure how they ended up on all of them. And one medication is counteracting with the other medication, and you just have kind of a mess because you haven't taken the time to sit down with a doctor and say, okay, this is my list of meds. Are there any of these that are duplicious? I can't, and maybe I can get off of one, or what can I do? Because there's a lot of plant-based options that Dr. Tawny's going to talk to us about tonight. And you are going to be so glad you are here to listen to all the brilliant things that she's going to share with you. But you are much better off when you can to use more plant-based things to handle a lot of the things that are going on in your body. You're going to have to develop some really good eating habits, what they call eating hygiene habits. And that means chew your food really well. We're all so busy. We are all busy. And so sometimes it's like, oh, I gotta hurry. I gotta eat. I've got 5 minutes. But you have to learn to chew your food well. Also limit liquids during your meals. And that's something I just learned just a couple of years ago, that it's best to limit the liquid when you're having a meal and just let your body start to break those things down. Just be very mindful about your eating, and you need to stop eating when you're about 80% full. So those of you that are on here because you're part of our Zingular community, when we came out with GLP-X, which helps you to get full faster, I remember the very first time that I noticed, gosh, I'm already getting full. And when I was taking the GLP-X, I was already getting full, but yet I was used to eating everything on my plate. And I had to reset my mindset that as I began to be full, I needed to stop eating. And you can take GLP-X all day long that helps you to not be as hungry and to get full faster. But you have to use that as a tool to rework your habits and the amount of food that you're eating, and not to push it until you're so full that you're sick. So that's one of the things that we can do to help our gut microbiome, is just eat until you're about 80% full, and then you're going to stop. Now, this is one we don't talk about a lot, but it's really important to our gut health. And again, that's a big thing that makes a difference in how your body reacts to menopause, and it's environmental pollutants. pesticides, herbicides, plastics, synthetic hormones that are in our food. All of these environmental chemicals are just a double whammy when our body's already taxed from trying to deal with estrogen, the decline of estrogen. But then in some cases, when we have too much estrogen free flowing in our body and it's not being metabolized. So if your symptoms are fluctuating, you really need to pay close attention to your gut health and to these things we're talking about, because guess what? When you're overweight, the likelihood of you having estrogen dominance is even greater, because did you know that your fat tissue creates estrogen? That's why when they talk about obesity as being a risk for breast cancer and other types of cancers, particularly with breast cancer in those that have the genetic disposition to breast cancer from it being estrogen fed, that's why it's so important to be at a healthy weight. Okay, so we've talked about gut health. We've talked about what you can do from just to look at some different things with your gut health to make sure that that's all in order. We've talked about inflammation, how important it is. As I talk about these next few things, which is our pillars of health for a woman, I'm going to say 30s and beyond. When we talk about these things, I really want you to take notes on the things that you can do to start to change your habits. And as I said before, this is a toolkit. There's lots of healthy habit tools out there. So when we start to talk about that, I want you to start thinking, I'm not just going to pull out one tool and say, oh, well, I already go to the gym, and then forget about the other tools. I want you to get comfortable looking at all these tools, trying them all out, because when you put this together, this is an extremely powerful combination for women's health. Not only women's health, if you have a husband out there and they do these things, it's going to increase their health as well. So here we go. We're going to talk about these pillars of health, and I want you to take notes if you're able, and I want you to try these all out. So the first one, we've talked a little bit about nutrition. I want you to really key in on the word fiber. Most women are deficit in fiber and protein. Protein is vitally important. When I mentioned a while ago about strength training, about maybe wearing a weighted vest, and by the way, you typically start out at 10% of the weight that you want to be at. So if you want to weigh 160, you do a 16-pound weighted vest. Wear it when you're walking, wear it when you're cleaning house, wear it when you're making dinner. That helps with us to have strengthened muscles, and it strengthens our bones so that we can have more successful bone density. Okay, so when we talk about that, you need protein. And there's a lot of debate right now about how much protein you need. But what I'm going to tell you is probably 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Now, some people say 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight, but I think anywhere in there is going to be good. But I really think you should strive for 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Okay, so important that you're getting in your fiber. My personal tip is you eat your fiber first. Don't even put other stuff on your plate until you have enough. I'm sorry, I meant to say protein. Until you have enough protein from that meal that you're going to meet your protein goal for that day. And there are a lot of ways that you can now meet your protein goals, that you don't even have to just eat bacon and eggs and meat all day. There's a lot of other things that you can do. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Fiber for women, y'all, 25 grams a day. Most women get between 7 and 12 grams of protein in an entire day. But if you want to lose belly fat, if you want to have a better estrobolome, like we've been talking about, if you want your body to be working in such a way that it is able to deal with chronic inflammation, and you're able to have a very diverse microbiome, then you have got to have your 25 grams of fiber per day. And if you're taking notes and you want to get your husband on the bandwagon, for men, it's 38 grams of fiber a day. So what do we want you eating? Protein and fiber. Here's the biggie. You got to cut out the bad stuff. Added sugar. Look at labels. Look at a label. Did you know sugar increases the intensity and duration of hot flashes and increases night sweats? It does. Sugar makes a difference. And anybody that's been in menopause a little while knows that, that when you eat sugar, your hot flashes are worse. So you have to cut out the sugar out of your diet and the processed things. You want to just cut those out. Artificial sweeteners, artificial flavors, artificial colorings. You want to get those out of your diet. They're toxic. You cannot lose weight if your body is toxic. So that's some things about nutrition that we want to start with. Let's talk also about alcohol. I'll tell you a little bit about my research into alcohol. Alcohol is inflammatory. It can affect so many things in your body. But particularly for women, the average of what is safe for you to have that will not trigger your body to mess up your gut health or increase inflammation is about 5 ounces of wine 3 to 4 days a week, 12 ounces of beer 3 to 4 days a week, and 1.5 ounces of hard liquor 3 to 4 days a week. So for you, that might be what you're doing, or maybe you're doing a lot more. I'm only giving this to you because this is part of the pillars of health. The more we learn, the better we can take care of our body. And you may not have ever even thought about how alcohol consumption is affecting your inflammation and affecting your gut microbiome. Okay, moving quickly to the next few. Sleep hygiene, so important. My best tip for sleep hygiene is that you try to go to bed and wake up at about the same time every day, at least within about a 30-minute range. Every night, try to go to sleep at the same time, and then every morning. That means the weekends too. That will help you really get that deep sleep that you need. You need REM sleep, and you also need deep sleep. So sleep hygiene is really important. There are whole books written on this. Google it, work on this. It's really important. For those women who are that are post-menopausal. We've talked about perimenopause and menopause, but those women that are post-menopausal, here's a tip for you. Go outside for 2 or 3 minutes, and you have to be outside. You can't look through a window. Go outside for 2 to 3 minutes at sunrise and at sunset every day, and then try to get outside for about 30 minutes midday. That will reset your circadian clock, and it will go a long way to overcome the fact that all of us stare at artificial light all day long. If you can get in the habit of turning those off and in the evening, getting off your phone, getting off the TV, any type of screen, that will help too. But that's a new trick that I have just recently learned. 2 to 3 minutes, sunrise, sunset, and about 30 minutes midday. It'll reset those things. Vitamin D is very important. So if you're not on a vitamin D supplement, then I would check with your doctor to see what your vitamin D looks like. You want to make sure you have plenty of vitamin D. You really do need it. Hydration, half your body weight in ounces of water. Detoxing your body. There are detox baths that you can purchase. There's castor oil there's a lot of different things. You can Google it. You're going to have more information than you can ever read. But in women's health, I think in 5 years, this is going to be the biggie. Detoxing your body, which means sweating, red light therapy, getting plenty of water, getting away from some of these environmental toxins that we've talked about, being more selective about the chemicals you put in your body and on your body, particularly under your arm. Now, we now know for women's health, and particularly for menopause, they're telling us don't use any aluminum deodorant. But there's other things in deodorant that aren't good as well, and that are not good for you as well. And here's another little thing I found in research, that the occurrence of breast cancer being so high, they are now doing extensive research to see what that has to do with not having your lymph nodes detoxed underneath your arms. So we'll have to do some more talking about that. The last thing I want to talk about is some health markers, and I'm going to turn it over to Tawny. But let's talk a little bit about health markers. I briefly mentioned last week about WHR, which stands for waist to hip ratio. This is one of the markers across the board that people are agreeing with. Weight is a very individual thing. You can have a 150-pound woman and she can be 5 foot tall, or a 150-pound woman that's 6'1", and everything in between. So, weight is a difficult marker. But this waist to hip ratio that they're using is something that the experts are agreeing is a very important health marker for women, particularly people in menopause. And how you get your ratio is you take your waist and divide it by your hips. So if your waist is 30, 32 inches and your hips are 42 inches, you divide that. And what you want is you want a ratio for women that's less than 0.8 and for men that's less than 0.9. So what this is going to do, y'all, is it's going to get your mind off of the scale and onto that visceral fat, that belly fat, reducing that, which is what we're talking about. The very last things on your health markers, I'm going to go through these, write them down if you can, and then I will conclude and turn it over to Tawny. Your fasting glucose needs to be under 100. Your triglycerides need to be under 150. Your HDL cholesterol needs to be over 50 for women and over 40 for men. They really like the waist circumference to be under 35 inches for women and under 40 inches for men. And then blood pressure now, what they consider healthy is 120 over 85. Those things in the waist to hip ratio are the most consistent across the board, because there's a lot of information out there about how we should look differently at menopausal women and what the health markers are. But these that I've given you tonight are consistent across the board. Magnesium is huge. That's another tip. There's lots of different types of magnesium, but I believe that yes, I will. I believe that we dropped in our resources for tonight a magnesium that I use, and there's probably a lot of good ones out there, but this is the one that I use that helps me with sleep and all kinds of other different things. So magnesium is really, really huge. So look at your health markers, work on inflammation. Those are the biggies. We've given you lots of things to do: exercise, sunshine, sleep, all of the things we've talked about tonight. I'm going to repeat these really quick. Fasting glucose under 100, triglycerides under 150, HDL, which is your good cholesterol, needs to be over 50 for women and over 40 for men. Waist circumference should be under 35 for women, under 40 for men. And then the last one is blood pressure, 120 over 85. So those are some things. As far as magnesium, I take magnesium L-threonate. And there's a lot of different ones out there, but what I find is the magnesium L-threonate, the one I take is Life Essentials. It helps me with sleep. It helps me with a lot of other things, and it doesn't cause diarrhea. So y'all, I talked fast, a lot of information. Hopefully you'll be able to go back and watch this. These are important things you can do right now to help with perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. Work on your inflammation for the rest of your life. Focus on your health markers. Use your toolkit. And now we're going to hear how fascinating God has made plants and what we can do to utilize science and plants to help us with these areas. I'm excited for you to hear from Tawny tonight. She's going to talk to you about so many different things. And then Jana's going to share some things as well. And I want to commend all of you who have been on for 2 nights. We are so glad you're here. Miss Tawny, can you take it away?
Absolutely. Lois, I just marvel at the information that you know and you're willing to share with us, and I appreciate it so much. I always learn from you.
Thank
And
you.
this is such a great series. Jana just had the best idea in the world. She said, we need to be talking about this. And we're so happy that you've joined us tonight to talk about these things. And I was listening to Lois thinking about how these changes are kind of hard. And I want to give you a little visual that helps me so much with what Lois was talking about. I look at my fist. And my doctor tells me that my stomach is about the size of my fist. Have you ever looked at a plate of Mexican food or a plate of Chinese food and compared it to the size of your fist, I've probably eaten more chips and salsa than the size of my fist before my food even arrives. So this is a real retraining of our brain and our habits, and we can do it. So let's talk about empowering ourselves at our next visit to the doctor's office. I'm going to share my screen just like I do with my students at the university. And let me grab it and share. And this is something I'm going to go through with you because it's a handout that we're going to give you. And I want to go over it with you so you know what you've got. These are 6 steps to consider, and I want you to think of these as stair steps. Step 1 is the first step on the staircase, and step 6 would be the top of the staircase. And I am not a doctor, I am a PhD, I'm not an MD, so I'm going to give you suggestions, but I want to empower you to go see your healthcare provider, whether that's a nurse practitioner, a chiropractor, an MD. Number 1 is exactly what Lois was talking about. That's the first step on the staircase. That's your lifestyle and nutrition. And you can sneak in the strength training. I have 2 dumbbells, and when I turn on my straightener to heat it up in the morning, those dumbbells are right by my bathroom, and I'm just doing my lifts, my sets while I wait for my straightener to heat up. I park farther away from wherever I need to go, so I'm getting more steps to go into Trader Joe's or to go into the library. And I'll tell you, these days it's so cold in Kansas that if you don't look both ways at the mall when you walk out of a store, you're going to get run down by the mall walkers. So even walking around Target or walking back to the back of Target, you'd be surprised how many little ways you can fit some steps in. Next, I want you to think about natural supplements. Natural supplements are going to be your phytoestrogens, that may be a new word for you, and your adaptogens. That's the science behind plants. A phytoestrogen is not estrogen. You're not adding estrogen, but what it can do is help to supplement. And God makes our bodies so amazing that you are going to be able to regulate your body through these changes. Now, when you look at what some of these root herbs do, the black cohosh, the maca root, magnesium, vitamin D, omega-3s, ashwagandha, these are going to really address naturally a lot of the elements that you need to be able to reduce some of the symptoms that Lois was talking about. And it is amazing to learn that this very list of supplements are what you're going to find in Zingular's Shine. If you look at the product ingredients, every single one of the things on here, except for the omega-3s, is going to be found in our product Shine. Now, we also happen to sell the omega-3s. And one thing I want you to realize is the magnesium that Lois talked about is not the same magnesium that is in Shine. So what you're going to find is as you do your own research and you are empowered to start making decisions about your body, you are going to want to ask yourself, is what this person is asking me or to look into, what does the label say? And then you've got to do some of your own research. Which magnesium is best for me? Which of these is helping me, or do I even notice a difference? So give yourself 6 to 8 weeks of trying new supplements before you start to make a decision about things working. And what's really lucky too is in our case, our Zingular has a money back guarantee, and that's very helpful. So first is lifestyle and nutrition. That's your very first step on the staircase. Second is to start to see what natural supplements and plant-based nutrition we can use to help us address some of our symptoms. And if you're not a water drinker, you have got to start drinking water because it's going to help you with your vaginal dryness. And that was one of the symptoms that a lot of people talked about. And if you don't like water, what are you going to add to your water, whether it's lemon or fruit or a water additive that has stevia in it instead of sugar or an artificial sweetener? What are you going to use to help you get that water in? Maybe peppermint tea, maybe decaf coffee. What are you going to do for that? So those are your first two points of defense as you empower yourself to take charge of addressing these symptoms. Next on the staircase is bioidentical hormones and over-the-counter aspects. So there are going to be some over-the-counter products that you can use that are called bioidenticals. That means that they are plant-based items that are going to act like things that you can get a subscription to, but they're not as strong as a prescription. Since they're not as strong as a prescription, that means you won't have as many of the side effects that you may have to deal with. Always with prescriptions, you get those inserts that give you 1,000 things that could go wrong. So if we can, we want to do the bioidentical things. You can ask your health provider about that. The last thing we want you to do is to go in and have a doctor tell you, well, you just must be depressed. Here's an antidepressant. That is old school. That is not the power in your hands to address the needs of your life. So you want to ask them, what are the bioidentical hormones that I might be able to use? Then, if those aren't working, then we're going to go into the prescription aspects. I actually did some prescription hormone replacement creams, and that's where I really saw some help. But as I got older, it didn't have the strength that it needed, and I started to develop some cysts in one of my breasts. We don't know that there was a correlation between those two things, but that was enough because of the history of breast cancer in my family to back off and go back to step two, natural supplements, using some different ones than I had tried. So do you see, you're in charge, whether it's step 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we get into the hormone replacements. That's step 5. And when we do the hormone replacements, that may be creams, that may be testosterone, that may be a prescription. And then step 6, we're going to monitor and adjust. So we're going to give you this handout. These are the steps to the staircase, and we want you to know about them. But it doesn't stop there. We also have one other handout, and I want to pull that up and show it to you. And this, I just want you to know what it is. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jana. This is just a list of resources for you. And there are organizations that you can click on. It's dynamic. There are Facebook groups. Dr. Mary Claire Haver is Lois's doctor. She is blowing up. She is an influencer in this sphere. She is amazing and she has great advice. Both of these Facebook groups have webinars you can turn into to learn more. We've got some books on here and we've got some studies on here. We just wanted you to kind of know what it was that you're looking at. You can experiment and click around, but we hope tonight we've given you some education that will help you make an informed decision. Now over to you, Jana, to wrap us up tonight.
I was dropping resources and couldn't find the mute. So again, blown away, have notes tonight and all that good kind of jazz. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how our products can marry some of these situations. So if you're already using products and you're not sure which could be the best fit, I'm going to show you those, okay? If you're somebody that's not using our products at all and you do like the thought of some plant-based plus the magnesium. I did drop the one that Lois talked about in the chat. I did drop a couple of PDFs, but I'll also talk about how you're going to get your resources, because we want to be sure that you get everything that we've talked about. Okay, so let me start with this first. Okay, so we started from the very, very beginning, even yesterday, talking about poor sleep and insomnia. And that was one of Lois's big problems, right? So we talked about that, and we've talked about the gut health a lot today. And I will tell you that I had never really correlated those as much until I started visiting with these two ladies over the course of this time. And it's been a real eye opener for me. And so if you're struggling, the combination of that tummy tamer that has that probiotic, that prebiotic, things like that in it, and then that XR2 would be products that you would want to consider. If you'll remember, when I started out yesterday, I talked about one of my friends that was like sleeping naked because she was hot all the time and all this kind of stuff. But we did not have Shine yet, which is my number one last product I would ever do without, because I feel like it's saving my life. It's the last thing I'd ever do without. And well, she actually started wanting some of my stuff because she couldn't sleep at night. Okay. So there is a good possibility that, not knowing what we didn't know 9 years ago, that it was actually her onset of menopause. We just didn't know that. We just thought the girl couldn't sleep, right? And so those are some thoughts. If you are struggling with weight gain, you want the package that's going to work with you. But the Clear Protein Plus, which if you're already a Singular customer, which a lot of y'all are, you know we're releasing that on Tuesday. Protein, protein, protein. One of the biggest things that we struggle with is also when you lose that muscle, remember, it slows down your metabolism. So, and I don't want to eat any more chicken or eggs or anything like that. So this is a very exciting, and that's why after Lois talked the other night, I decided that that is one of the gifts we're going to give away rather than just a gift card to Amazon. We want to pour back into your health, and I truly believe that this will pour back into your health. Okay. Memory problems. I think everybody that's raising a family should be having on omegas anyway. I believe that a global blend is one of the most important things for me turning my health around because of that inflammatory health. So that to me is of paramount importance. I believe every human being drawing breath should be taking that. And so if that's something that you know you're struggling with, that might be an area for you to address it with plant-based issues, right? And then same thing when you start thinking about dry joints or being stiff, or, Lois talks extensively tonight about inflammation. And I just don't think we realize how much of what's going on with our bodies is actually related to things like that. So you've got some suggestions here so that if you are like, even if you've been here as long as I have, you may go, but I'm not sure exactly what the best thing to address my menopausal symptoms are. So we want you to have a visual of that. Okay. And then the last thing that I'm going to share with you tonight is how you're going to get your resources. First of all, let's drop in the chat. Has this been worth 2 fairly full evenings for you? I can't imagine anyone going, this has not been well worth my time. And so I just thank them so much, but I thank y'all. But I love what Lois said about the toolbox. We can give you all these things. We can talk. We could do 4 more of these. And if nothing happens, nothing happens. So there's a couple of ways that you're going to be able to get these resources. Okay. So one, I dropped a couple of things in that chat that you could go copy and paste while it's still up and grab those, but you don't have to freak out about that. I do need to drop something in there real quick before I talk about it so that it is there. So I'm going to try to multitask and get you something in there right now, real quick. Okay, this one is important because this is how we're going to know who we're going to give the prizes to. And so there are a couple of ways for you to get things. Maybe you grabbed them there, or my partner, Jana invited me, whatever. Reach out to them. The partners have access to these things through boards or through our groups. So they'll be able to get that if you're on here as a customer and you're not sure where. Okay. So just say, hey, I need those resources. We want to be absolutely sure you get those resources. The other thing is I just dropped in there a It's a form. You fill it out. You're going to say, this is my name, this is my phone number, this is my email address, and I am going to give away one of these, which has not even launched yet. It launches Tuesday, and this is a protein that replaces 4X. It is on the go, and it's got like that leucine protein, so that it's going to actually help with that muscle growth. Not all protein products are actually helping you grow that muscle. And one of the biggest problems, talking about like that bone health and that muscular health and things like that, is if we are not taking care of ourselves, that statistic at falling at 75 and not rebounding is absolutely on point. It is so on point. So we've got to take care of those bones. We've got to build muscle, and we're not doing a great job of that as women. We're caring about everybody else but ourselves. So it's super, super important. Lois also talked about fiber tonight, and she's been talking to me about fiber for quite some time. An avocado, I think, is my favorite way to have some fiber. But we also have a fiber product. So I'm going to give away 2 gifts. I'm going to give away a protein gift, and I'm going to give away a fiber gift. I think Lois would approve of that. And so would Tawny. So we're going to give away 2 gifts. In that chat, there is a form, and it's going to ask you. But y'all, it's also going to say, we would love your feedback. We would love what you loved. We would love to hear other things that you want to learn about. We even talked about, sexual health and stuff like that on Tuesday night. You can put whatever you want to in that box, and it is going to come back to me. Okay. And also in that, if for any reason by tomorrow or whatever, you have not figured out how to get your resources, if you'll send a message in that, it will come to an email, and I will know exactly who you are, what your phone number is, and I can make sure you get them. Or I can say, hey, Tawny, Barbara needs her stuff, whatever it is. But I can help you get those. We want to be sure we've got 4 pieces of paper information for you, and that resources, it has links in it. So it's full of links. Okay. And then also, if you do want to know about that magnesium, because I personally loved what Lois said, and I know I can go buy a lot of magnesium, but one of the things that we always talk about with that is lots of people have used it over the course of time when they have a going to the bathroom problem. Well, if you don't have a problem like that and you start taking magnesium, so I'd like to know that it's not going to cause me that problem. So I actually ordered that the other day when we were chatting, because I want to take a different magnesium. So I loved that advice myself. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to be sure, is there any question in the chat, like how to get that form? I just want to be sure. I don't want anybody to get off here and they have no idea how to enter for the gifts, or if they didn't know. And also, you'll just say who invited you. And that way I can help facilitate anything that I need to. Okay. And the last thing is, y'all, this is the type of value that we believe. Too much is being given, much is required. And how can you be in such a wonderful community full of women, and just a world full of beautiful women that we're all so different, we're as unique as our thumbprints. We are just knit together so perfectly. But when we come together, can we not just become truly our best selves and love your body through this time, but love yourself all the time? So a big round of applause to these ladies. This has been more than I ever dreamt of. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And we will let y'all go. Yes, we will get the recording out. And Lois, did I miss anything? Because I couldn't talk and read all those things at the same time.
No, I mean, I've been reading through everything. I think it was great. We have some questions about magnesium. Just right off the top of my head, what I can tell you is take as much as you can until it starts to cause gastric upset. So if you can take 6 a day, take 6. If you can do 12, do 12. You take as much as you can of the magnesium for sleep and constipation until it starts to cause gastric upset. So, and Janice dropped the link to the one. We don't make anything off of that. The only reason we're dropping it is just for ease for you, because we'd really like to see you all take it. It's a huge tip for menopause, and it's inexpensive. You can grab it on Amazon.
Perfect. Thank y'all so much. We will get everything out as possible. I will actually get the recording loaded up to YouTube tonight so that we can start passing that around just as quickly as possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will see y'all again in the future. and just go and have the best evenings. Thank y'all, ladies.
Thank you.